Alright, in this video we're going to do one of my favorites, and this is the piece that acts kind of like a glass canopy. A lot of times they're clear, although they do come in opaque too. We'll just model it here in our opaque gray to start, but we can obviously throw on a nice transparent material here once we get onto texturing. So this one is based on the top of a footprint of 2 by 2, and it runs up to the height of 3 bricks, 3 of the thinner bricks, 1 of the taller bricks high. So we're going to set on here, let's see, already got this set up. 4.8 millimeters is going to be our center because it's going to be 9.6 millimeters tall, and then it's 16 by 16. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply. Oops, and we'll have our brick ready here. And what we want to do is create kind of an edge that we can use for, let's see here. It's good to have these on hand actually in real life so you can use them to measure against each other. Let me just quick double check here. There we go. Yeah, so we're going to want to create another taper here that's going to run actually 1/3 of the way up. So I'm going to turn this to a count of 2 in symmetry. Oops, looks like I've got more going than I wanted to. There'll be something funny going on here. Turn my symmetry off. Oh, something funny happened there. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of the bottom one. That way I know I've got this 2/3 of the way up. So if I select this and turn on my dimensions tool, it should be right at 3.2, which I am. Excellent. Just drop that tool. Okay, and this is how we'll create the inward taper that will be along the edges here. And we also want this to be an even height here, and we're just going to rotate around sections. So I'm going to run another loop slice through here, and just a single one, run right down the middle. So I have these kind of 3 ribs that I'll be dealing with here. And so we're going to start here by just tapering this downwards. So I'm going to select all of these polys here, and what I want is at the end I want the height of this edge here to only be looks like, boy, it's not even 1.6, so I'm going to want to drop this down pretty significantly. So let's go ahead and get a linear fall off and turn on our move tool here. And let's go ahead and drag this down. I think we're going to have to go down about 8. Actually, I take it back, not quite 8, because it's 6.4 minus that, so what's that going to be? 4.8, sorry, not 8. And we'll use that as our base point here, and then we'll kind of check this against here. And when I'm looking at this piece here right up in real life, I can see that this front edge is actually getting a little bit lower than this bump here, but it's also rotated forward. So we use that as our starting point, and then we're going to rotate these edges here. So I'm going to go to this edge here, and I'm going to run my rotate tool, but I'm going to set my action center to element, and then I'm just going to choose this bottom edge here as my action center, and my end one. Oops, let's clear off our fall off. My end one needs to go 45 degrees forward. This one is in the middle and needs to split the difference, so this one needs to go 22.5 degrees. Okay, and then I'll just select the next edge forward. Oops, didn't get the full edge there. Make sure I got everything here. And this one will rotate, but this one will choose this front edge as our axis. And for this one, I can just hold down Control here and pull this forward 45 degrees. So now if I hit the tab key there, see, well, kind of hard to read the angle. So let's unsubdivide. Though that is looking pretty close, though this one might be a little on the short side. So what I'm going to do is select the entire thing, scale tool, and I'm just going to pick this bottom edge here. I'm just going to scale this one up a little bit so that I get a little bit more of an arc. Actually, no, take it back. I don't even want to scale. What I want to do so that I retain the shape of that is just select the top part and move that up. And then in that case, the action center is really kind of irrelevant, but I'll just put that in there. Oops. Yeah, so something like that ought to work. Okay, so now these two edges on either side need to come in, and this is going to be where we'll get kind of the character of the angled in shape of this. So I'm going to go to turn my symmetry back on, get my move tool, set my action center back to automatic, and what happens here with these is that they run in, and then there is another little kind of mini indent on the top and the back, and the ridge and then the bottom of the ridge kind of split the difference between the center of the pegs. So I'm just going to come in and look for a spot a little ways in, about there. And there's no real dimension on that other than that. So I'm just going to move these in by hand until I get that right shape, which is about there. So that's good. And now we're going to start here getting some extra detail, and first I'm just going to run some loop slices in here that are going to be relatively loose because these ones aren't to sharpen, these are just to give us that extra edge here. And what I want to do is look for that point, like I said, to where it's kind of splitting over, and this entire poly strip here will kind of go right over the middle of the bumps, which is just about like that. Okay, and now we need to move this down, but this tapers, so it's got a ridge here in the back where it's down, but here in the front it comes back to flush. So I'm going to turn my fall off to linear and get my move tool. Let's reverse that because I want it to be going down that way. And as far as height on that goes, let's looks like it's down about 1.5 millimeters because it lines up, or we can probably go 1.6 and make it nice and even because it lines up, or sorry, 0.8, half of that way. Line's going backwards on me here. So that we get that inset, and then in the front, tapers off to nothing. And also there is a minor bit of scaling that happens back to front, so it gets a little bit wider here in the front. So I'm going to drop my tool, turn my symmetry off, go to my scale tool, and you can see since I had flipped my action center, or my fall off originally, it's gone back to the normal one. I can just scale that out a little bit, and there we go. We have the low poly version of this, at least of the base, done pretty quickly. Okay, now this has a couple of additional little features on it that we'll need to consider here. And that's that there is an inset in the front of this, and then there is a really slight recess in the back, and then obviously it has a hole in the middle with a peg running down that's pretty much just like this peg, which we'll copy and paste in a line. So what I want to do to get this part right is I want to run a loop slice through here. So let's run loop slice. Oops. Turn my fall off to none. And let's turn our fall off before we run loop slice. There we go. Oops, looks like we got an extra edge in there, but that's all right. I'll just go ahead and grab that guy and get rid of it. Okay, so this now creates where we will put our recess. Now the problem is, though, if we bevel this and we just bevel and move it back, we can end up with some real issues, though. Maybe in this case it's still going to be our best. On the back side we'll actually have to cut and move some polys to get this to work. Here on the front we can probably get away with it. So what I'm going to do is bevel this, and I'm going to come up just a little bit in like that. And now I want to scale the whole thing here. Actually, that's probably too much. Let's just go in 50 UM, so it's even half the distance that we've been using to sharpen. And then I'm going to run the scale tool, set ourselves to an element action center, the axis set to auto. We'll just grab this front edge here and we'll scale that down flat. And that way we have geometry to define this, and we've retained a little bit of a quad down here. And when looks like we're all right. Almost looked like we'd overshot that a little bit. Oh, and actually here, that's the problem that we're dealing with here now, that this one is, or this back edge is not quite flush, so that's actually also a relatively easy one to deal with. So I'm going to select those two. Actually, sorry, let's turn our symmetry on. I'm going to select this one. Again, I'm going to go to an element action center, scale tool, and I'm going to click this edge right here. And oops, sorry, let's change our axis to auto. And what I want to do is just flatten this out widthwise. That'll work. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Although it may not work on this angle. I think it's gonna flatten out my taper. So we can just do that one visually. And there are two ways we can do that one. I'm actually going to go with the way that does it all at the same time. Turn off my symmetry. I'm going to move this, oops, auto action center. I'm just going to move this guy up to align it there. And we'll run our scale tool. You need to get your handles a little bit bigger. You can use the plus and minus keys there. Because I want to zoom way in on this. Actually, let's move it down just a little bit. There we go. Now I'll go back to our scale tool. And it's all way too far. Well, let's try to, yeah, that's darn close. And since we're going to have a little rounding anyway, that should be just about perfect. Okay, now on this back side, we have a kind of similar little little feature, and it just fills up this section right here, this polygon right here. And what it actually does too is it tapers in just a little bit as well, and it tapers in to the width of this. So it runs from, let's see, that actually should be the right position there, and we'll just scale it in where we get even with this top peak there. There we go. And now this one, like I said, we're going to have a much harder time just beveling. And the reason for that is that it's going to inset straight, and then we're just going to have this little lip hanging out there, and it's going to cause us some real issues. So what I'm going to do here, just so I know, so I have an exact measurement, I'm going to take my slice tool, and I'm just going to drag this across. And you can see that this is starting, I'm looking at my Z at 7.75. Well, I want that to be 7.8. So we're going to do it at just 0.2 millimeters. Whoops, 7.8 millimeters. Let's try. I'm bad at that today. So 7.8 there. All right, so now we know we need to just move this back 0.2 millimeters when we get there. So let's go ahead and drop our tool. What I'm going to do is grab this edge here, or this polygon here, and cut it out entirely. Then I'm going to take this one here, I'm going to bevel it. I'm just going to go back 200 UM. And then I'm going to take this little lip that was created and cut it out. Now, if I run my, just select this entire thing, if I run my vertex merge tool here, and drag it all the way down to 0. So that area gets deselected, and we have that divot. It's not going to look good until we subdivide it. So we're about ready to get on to our subdivisions here. Check the width on that again. Looks like it might be a hair wide, so I'm just going to go ahead now and turn my symmetry back on. Select this, and I'm just going to drag it in a little bit. This one I'm just going to eyeball because I kind of want it to look like the piece there, and it kind of looks like a direct line going up through there, so that ought to work pretty nicely. And yeah, so let's start. Let's start doing our loop slices here before we even bring in our base here. And I think I might want to take this guy and no, I'm kind of hesitant to do that. Let's run loop slices here, here, we need to delete these ones in the middle because we're not going to want those ruining our flow here, which we've worked on. And now let's run this way. And then in this one, oops, sorry, I'm doing these too tight now again. So let's get these, go to 2%, 2%, run up this middle one. And then we'll actually even need ones here. These ones I'm going to soften up even more. I'm going to go to 10%. And same thing here, 10%. Those are pretty sharp, but you know, we don't want them to be so razor sharp. We're going to keep some of that. Otherwise, we'd just be best modeling them in not in sub-D mode. Okay, so same thing there. These I'll make a little bit sharper. Still pretty small, so I'll go down to 5%. And we got this one here, which is really light, so I'll pull that one all the way back to just about even spacing. Okay, so here we have this, and now all we need is to bevel this in here, and this actually might be a bit of a problematic area, but we'll do the best we can with it. So let's just grab this. I'm going to grab up to this back edge. I don't want to include this. This is just going to be extra added nightmare to add in. So I'm just going to grab all of this up to there, and we'll use that. So I'm going to run the bevel tool, and just going to click, turn my symmetry off, and go right to my scale tool. And actually, we want to be out of sub-D mode. So let's go to another mode here, and then go back to polygons, and then just run our scale tool. And we'll just scale this down to fit it on those bumps. It looks like we're going to have to adjust it a little bit, so overshoot it a little bit this way. And we'll move it back. Just going to scale more front heavy since we're leaving off this little back lip there. And we'll scale it a little bit horizontally. The bevel tool again. And this time, we've actually got kind of an interesting thing here. We're gonna bevel up here little ways, up to the height of the bump so that it will fit on top of another piece. So we'll go up 1.7. But then from there, we get kind of this little bit of tapering towards the middle. So let's go ahead and let's hide that piece because that's really just getting in our way at this point. And for this, we're going to want these edges here to be in alignment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this edge, and work my way back up to there. And then I'm going to run the scale tool. And again, we're going to go with element action center with an auto axis. I'm just going to click on that guy. Oops. Let's include that one. Go all the way up there. And that should align that one. Good. And I didn't have my symmetry on, so let's undo that. Turn on symmetry. Have to reselect that so we get it symmetrically. That guy. Go up to there. And I think I'll do the same thing here too. I'll go all the way up to that edge. That gives a nice location for the shift. So let's do that. This guy. Oops. Looks like we missed one. that. Again, with the scale tool, we'll select this next edge and flatten that one out. And then finally move on to this last one here. And one more time with the scale tool. And we'll go ahead and fix that. Now, since we already have these 3 edges running for our alignment, we should be in real good shape for adjusting this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select, just the inner up to there. And, oops, sorry, no, actually I need to go all the way out. And then we just need to move this part up. Let's change back to an automatic action center. Oops. And let me scale my tools back, my tool handles back down a little because we're looking a little bit big. And let's pull this guy up. And what we're looking for here is kind of a little bit of a mirroring of what's going on up at the top. That's kind of what happens with the real deal here. Okay, and then when we've got that, I'm going to turn a linear fall off on, reverse it, and then we're just going to drag this up. And I'm going to turn on a ease out on my fall off there. I'll drag it up 4.8 millimeters, should be just about right. So this part needs to come up a little bit, so I'm just going to drag my handle back a little bit. I'm going to keep this even with what's up top there. And looks like I actually missed an edge here. Oh, we can give this a tab key shot here and try. Let's go ahead and run our loop slices. Oops, that's not the right one. Loop slices there. We want this to remain arched, so that's right. Loop slices around there. Oops. Those got a little tight. And when we look at this, let's see there. Ah, yes, so we just have one more area in the back then that will need to be kind of sharpened up and be real delicate with which one that is. Oops, and it looks like I actually missed an edge here dragging up, and that's why we're getting a bit loose there. So let's just go ahead and grab this edge, this edge, this edge. Now, if my symmetry on that should have gone all the way across. Looks like it did, so that's good. Now we're just going to grab this whole thing, automatic action center, and just drag that up. And oops. I'm going to go 4.8 millimeters on that too. Or right there about. Oops, or higher, I guess. Let's get that right up near that edge there, and that will help to solidify the back there. And let's see here, we got another edge here that we need to do a little bit of little softening on this edge. That's because we created this little lip here. That's okay. We'll just grab this guy here and that guy. This one. And drag it up. Oops, no, that's not right. So I just need to drag up a little bit there. So lose that angle. And looks like I was a little sloppy in here. I'm not sure what I missed selecting here, but what we want is we want these to kind of match up with up there. So let's just go ahead and grab them while we're here and move them up. now we're starting to look a lot more like I had expected. Alright, so there we go. We got that piece ready. Oh, one thing that we should note here is that this one definitely seems to round more towards the top, and there are a couple ways we can fix this and make this more round. I think the quickest way is going to be just to adjust our edge loops here. So let's go to edge mode again, select all this, and I'm just going to slide it down. The more I slide that down, the more you're going to see that rounds off the edges there. So right about there ought to be good. Oh, perfect. It rounds nicely towards the front. We got the interior ready. So all we need to do now is we need to insert our circle that goes in there. And the only problem is that, unfortunately, we're left with, do the math here, we're left with 10 edges instead of the 12 that we have, so we'll have to build a new circle to go underneath here. We won't be able to use the one that's down here already, but that's all right. We can still use that one as a template. I actually moved to a new mesh layer because we're going to need to see that one. We're going to need to use that one that we just built as our background constraint, so we can get that into the right size, the right contour on the bottom. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and drag out a nice cylinder. And we need to set our sides down to 10. Make sure we're even. So it's 6.4 across, so let's set it at 3.2. Okay. And I'm going to set my positions all to 0. Let's put this guy just right down on the ground plane. And then actually here, right from the get-go, I'm going to thicken it a bit. And I'm going to grab this guy. I'm going to hide this mesh, bring this one back. And I'm going to turn on geometry constrained to background. I'm just going to move this guy up. Get it right up on there. That'll work. And we'll cut that end polygon off. And, gosh, sorry, I'm one step ahead of myself. I have to check here, and we can see that this one has edges on this side and flat polygons in the middle. The other one's the other way around, so I need to rotate this so that we get this flat on the sides. Well, in the middle, 18 degrees. Looks like that does it just right. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab this tool again, move it up. It's on there. Cut that polygon out. And now let's go ahead and switch our visibility. Let's turn our snapping off. And we'll just bevel this guy in. And then we'll bevel it. And let's see here. Just going to move it up a little bit. Then again, I'm going to highlight this background, the right background mesh. Turn my snapping back on. Geometry, constrain to background. I'll just get the move tool, flatten that back out up there. And now let's see, I'll run loop slices here, here, and here. Tab key, grab this guy, bevel it in, 100 UM. Oops. Or thereabouts. So let's go back over to our interior mesh. I'm going to grab all of those, cut them out. I'll take this piece here, cut it. Oops, the right one. Paste this edge and this edge, and we should be good to go. Oops. Maybe one extra set of loop slices. All right, so There we go. That one is that one can be a real tough one, but comes out really nice if it's well done. Looks really good with transparency on because you have the nice tapered edge here that still blends into this. You start to see this is a really good piece where setting up your transparent properties correctly is going to give you a really nice look for it, so that through the thicker edge pieces, the transparency will get deeper, less transparent. We'll be using our absorption distance on that, and just overall real nice looking piece. We'll have a couple of these right on the front of our helicopter, so that's going to work out well. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as my item preset. Call this canopy, and we'll check our layout. There it is. That's all right. I don't like the way that's facing in that preview, but I'm going to go render a preview of it here anyway. So there we go. Hope you had fun with that one. This one will look great on the front of our thing, so make sure you go through and take good time to get a nice rounded arc on this so that it looks good when it's completed. Thanks. See you in the next video.